watching Eclecticka. I'm Michael 7 Michael. We have with us today Michael the Knight, Emilio Lopez, and we've got Sensei Vegan. Boom. Boom, shakalaka, boom, boom. So, man, this man came all the way from PA, so I have to start with you. Thank you so much for coming through, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I had a little bit of a break in my schedule, and I just, finished right before the holidays, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna take up a trip to New York. I used to actually live here. My mom and my family still live here, so it's nice to come up.
No, we really appreciate that. So, we met at a comic book convention. So tell us your experience. We just did actually a whole episode on comic book conventions. What was your first convention? So tell us about that and your experience and just the whole thing of like setting up a table and
comic conventions,
selling your art. Yeah,
it's funny when I first started doing them. I actually worked in production. I worked on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon from the 2003 to 2009.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like, I need to start kind of getting out there, and just start doing these conventions. So my friend Kari, who's a comic book artist at the time, and he also worked at our studio, was like, hey, man, you should just totally do that stuff because it's, it's just an experience. And I was like, so we used to do the whole circuit. We did New York Comic Con. We did the Mocha Art Festival.
Mm-hmm.
It happens like maybe in spring, and I think it's still going on right now. And that's how I started doing the conventions.
Wow. So you're an animator, as like you do the inking and the coloring, or?
I've done like for animation where I actually was a freelance artist before that, and while I was in college, and then when I took an internship and then eventually got into studio work. So
Okay.
I started out in animation as a background painter, and then I ended up doing a lot more because we had a small studio. You wouldn't believe it. We only had maybe 25 people that were actually sitting and working on the show. So I got to do some incidental character design. I got to do we did a final thing that we did on Turtles was this movie called Turtles Forever, and I actually got to do some additional animation for it, and I did some storyboard work for some revisions of some shots. So I kind of wormed my way into a bunch of different things. And from there, I worked on I think season 3 of Venture Brothers as a character and prop colorist, and then from there I worked on another. I worked on a couple of kid shows, and I kind of been around in the New York area,
Nice.
jumping from show to show, kind of the way it is here. When you get into animation here in New York, because it's usually animation here in New York is very kind of small. You end up kind of going and jumping around to a bunch of different studios. Granted, there's a lot less studios here in the city now. When I was still working, when I was still working here a lot, there were quite a bit. Like Courage the Cowardly Dog was done here. Codename Kids Next Door was done here, and all those shows closed up shop around the same time, which was in 2008 and 2009.
Wow, I didn't know that at all either.
That? Yeah. But there's a lot of other companies out there. I think there's Augenblick, which is out in Dumbo, and Titmouse Animation, which is close to Midtown. So there's still studios doing stuff here. I think another company named Little Airplane, which is maybe downtown somewhere. I can't remember. I'm not sure if they even are here. It's been a while.
Now tell everybody your DeviantArt page.
My DeviantArt page, I don't even remember it. Well, the name of it. The easiest way to find it is just look for E-Man, E-MANN, and then DeviantArt, and you'll find it. When you search E-Man or Emilio Lopez E-Man or Emilio Lopez art, you'll find me. I'm pretty easy to find on there.
Now you got some dope stuff on here, man.
The picture that's up right now, that's from a book that I did in 2012 called Kara's Magic: The Death Princess.
That was a lecture before that, the picture?
Yeah, that was a
was
lecture.
nice,
Thank you. That was a personal project, that one.
Still looks good.
But I've worked in.
Now what was this?
Oh, that's just a little piece of fan art that I did. It's nothing special. And that is also too. A couple of years ago, we're talking about conventions. I did this. Thank you. That X-Men piece was from. I did a little promotion with the X-Men, with that X-Men Apocalypse film, and what they do is what a lot of the movie studios have been doing as of late have been kind of tapping, art, fan artists and freelancers and stuff to do these kind of movie posters to promote the thing, because they noticed that it not only just putting commercials up on TV helps to get people to go see a film, but also social networking and seeing that all these seeing artwork based on their franchises also helps them. They actually started doing it on Deadpool, at least I was told at the time. Right. So I was signed up to do that, as well as they didn't get to do it, but I was going to do Independence Day Resurgence, but it didn't happen. That piece is from Mosaic, a book that I just finished getting off of, which is from Marvel. He is essentially, Marvel hasn't created a new superhero in years, and Mosaic was the first new superhero they had done in a long, long time. Unfortunately, sales, and they kind of canceled the book. But that was a promotion with the BioShock piece is a promotion with I think 2K Games that I did.
Oh, BioShock's a good game too.
Thank you. And what it was they wanted like 3 classic comic book feeling covers to promote the BioShock HD remaster that came out not long ago. Yeah. And that Metal Gear piece that was from before, if you'll notice, if you look through my gallery, there's quite a bit of Metal Gear stuff. What happened was every single convention I like to do something special to promote my work. So it's like, I'll do some prints, I'll do some or so, I'll maybe sell something that something familiar from one of the shows and things that I've worked on. And for that year, I didn't have anything, but there was there's a bunch of Metal Gear artwork that I drew just on my spare time. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna make a whole little art book, just full of my Metal Gear work that I've drawn since I could pretty much draw decent.
And it went over well too, didn't it?
It did pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, it got the attention of a lot of people. Folks at Konami seem to like the work, and
nice.
And Kojima retweeted my work a couple of times, and which was cool. Yeah. So it was a really good thing, and that's kind of it's kind of funny. In the online community, despite all the work that I've done in television and comics and all that stuff, I'm more well known as a Metal Gear fan artist than I am any of the other stuff.
Look at that. Metal Gear has a huge following too, man. People, it's a huge. It's not like a cult following, but it's big.
Yeah.
Metal Gear is big. Yeah.
That is a book that I'm working on right now for the band Coheed and Cambria. It is called Amory Wars. That I'm doing paint. I'm mostly painting the book on that one, and that is drawn by a guy named Rags Morales. He has got some lineage. I think he did Infinite Crisis or something like that for DC. So he's got some cool stuff.
That's amazing. The art in this is just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
The painting is just beautiful.
So yeah, I'm currently working on issue 10 right now. We have 2 more issues, and so it should be cool.
And what's that?
That piece is for Cage and I think it's Cage and Iron Fist. Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Okay.
That was a special, a cover that was just done by Kari Randolph and myself.
Now, does this Luke Cage have one hand that glows or two?
Well, you mean Iron Fist? I don't know. I mean, I don't actually read too many of the books that I work on. It's just kind of funny.
No, because we're always talking about the Netflix version of Iron Fist and how we really want him to change. We want him to be more confident. We want his fighting skills to be to the point that he actually can fight a dragon. And we also want him to have two fists that actually are Iron Fists, not just one.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a hard one. That one. That wasn't my least favorite of the Marvel Netflix shows.
Yeah, I think that's the least favorite of a lot of people, man. Harley Quinn.
Yeah, that's Harley. That was a special cover done by Kari Randolph. I do a lot of work with Kari Randolph. If you guys don't know who that is, you should, because he does a lot of amazing work, and I've been working with him for a good 10 years, I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah,
Maybe more, because we met while I was working in animation. And after the sad thing is that when we were working on Ninja Turtles, and Ninja Turtles got sold the whole franchise got sold to Nickelodeon, and we were working on this card game called Chaotic. And what happened from there is that, the card game was not doing very well. So they ended up letting go of the whole art department at the same time. So in 2009, Kari and I and a bunch of my friends, guys we worked with for a while, all were let go.
Oh,
so Kari was Kari used to worked a lot in comics before, and he kind of did licensing artwork and stuff, and he wanted to get back into comics. And he's like, yo, you want to do this? We go out as a team and do this, just get into comics, and I was like, yeah, sure, I got nothing going on. That's it. And that's how it goes.
Nice.
So from there, the first project we worked on was a book named Kara's Magic. From there, I got to draw the sequel, prequel book called Kara's Magic: The Death Princess. Then we moved on to DC, and then we moved on to Marvel. We did work with Robert Kirkman on a book called Tech Jacket.
Okay.
So, and we worked on We Are Robin and Robin War. So a lot of fun stuff.
You got a lot of work under your belt, man.
Yeah.
That's good though.
That's a recent thing we finished, which was for Venomverse, a big crossover thing that Marvel was going to do, where everybody's a Venom. So
Like Venom, as in the Spider-Man?
they all have Venom symbiotes in them. So,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But that's all I know. I don't know much about it. That's the final issue, the final cover to Mosaic, number 8. That one was a fun project. I mean, when we first got onto that one, I was like, a little bit reluctant, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. But it's like, you know what? When's the next time you're going to be able to be a part of creating a totally new character for Marvel Comics?
It's true.
Right.
Most of the guys you see out there are just like, hey, look, it's somebody wearing somebody else's costume,
And that's
kind of stuff.
That's what it's come down to.
Wow.
But but this one was a different idea. It was like we decided to make a whole new character and give him a cool push and all that stuff. So it was a really cool project, and we got to work with the writer Jeffrey Thorne. If you guys don't know who that is, he's a really great writer. He works for TV, but if you've ever seen the show In the Heat of the Night, you ever heard of that show?
Yeah, I did.
He was on that show for years. That was what he did before he got into writing. Really cool duo. I actually was in LA not long ago, because the way comics are now, it's like you kind of are separated all the time. One guy's here. I don't live in New York. I don't come. Like we're all over the place, so we don't actually get to see each other face to face, except for at comic shows.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, I was trying to explain that to somebody as far as it seems like that when you're together, the interaction that you guys have, it's like the work. It's not like you're not doing great work. It's like when you're together, it's like boom, man. It's that magic just amplifies when you're sitting there with the other person.
Oh yeah, it's like one of the things I do miss from working in production and TV and animation production is just being able to be in the same room with all the other creative people. You can, it's not. I can't say it's a competition, but I'd say that you end up, one guy pushes further, another guy pushes further, so you keep. You kind of feed off each other and then push each other even further, which is great. But being it's nice to be at home, but sometimes you miss kind of going into a studio and saying, "What's up, guys? How you doing?"
And you're one of the first people that I've heard say that, because I know, because I do my own comics, and I love working with people face to face, and we go over that story. It's like I see your reaction. What do you think about it? And you get the honest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when a person, I love when a person brings in the panels, and I get to see it. It's just like, dude, that energy just goes through you, man. It's crazy.
The one thing that happens, at least I feel, is just that there's a semi disconnect. Like, I've only met my bosses at conventions. I've never met my boss. Like, I don't go into Marvel and be like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" None of that stuff happens. And I kind of missed that a little bit. I interned at Marvel in the late 90s, and in the bullpen, and there was a lot of that, where you sit there and, all of a sudden Sean Chen is there, finishing off pages, and you can ask him questions. A guy named, we had Michael Golden was our art director at the time, and it's just being able to, Michael Golden is a brilliant artist, and just being able to pick the guy's brain as far as art and, storytelling and all that other stuff was an incredible experience.
Yeah, I believe in the hands-on type stuff, man. It just makes for a great experience.
Definitely. Like, I feel like there's just a big difference between being in the room with the actual people than just kind of communicating through email.
Yep, it's complete. Yeah, I agree.
Some of the recent projects me and Kari just finished off were we just did work for the Catalyst Prime Lion Forge books.
Okay.
A lot of those are really great characters. We worked with Joe on that one. Was a former DC editor who, decided. I'm not exactly sure what the whole story behind Lion Forge is, but he's the chief editor over there, and he's just amazing to work with. And we're just doing, me and Kari are just doing covers on those, and it's just a blast to do those.
Now, will you come out with anything of your own, like characters or anything like that, or?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, it's like I'm kind of waiting for my own stuff to come. Like, I have stuff and projects that I want to do, but color work and doing things for other people, usually that's the sort of thing that kind of that's the thing that keeps the roof over the head. So,
right.
Obviously, it allows me to also have that extra time to work on my own things on the side and stuff, and do stuff like the BioShock image that is there on the screen. So
I put some hours into that game. BioShock, yeah, I like that game.
And the funny thing is how I got that job was because of the Metal Gear work that I did.
Look at that.
The hilarious thing is that a lot of the different branches of Konami really enjoyed my work, and I actually got to do an art show in France. Was just my Metal Gear. They wanted me to do a specific piece and submit it to this thing. This art show for Metal Gear Solid 5 in France, and then from there, a lot of the people that were working at the Konami in Europe, they moved on to different companies and stuff like that. And he's like, "Hey, we really want to work with you. I really want to work with you again. I'm working at 2K. Want to do some of these cool BioShock things?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, sure."
Man, that is awesome.
And
that's cool.
Yeah. And one of the other things I just finished off this year was there's a book called The Thing tribute book. You ever heard of The Thing, the movie with John Carpenter and that? So I just finished doing a piece for that, which is out now. You can buy the book.
Wow.
Now, what was this?
Again, it's just a little something I did on the side. I call them sanity pieces. What it is just a little something that's on my own, that's not related to any of the work that I do. So it's just like I do a lot of, color work and stuff like that. So I like to get in the stuff that I want to do in there too, because I feel like that as an artist is incredibly important. Even if you're working for the big studios or you're working like for art as a living, I do feel like you need to be able to get your own things in there, the things that you enjoy. Because you can totally slip into just
like a catatonic state.
You become Charlie Chaplin twisting bolts on a conveyor belt, because that's kind of the industry. It is especially comics. It's very much of a everything's kind of sparsed out. You have your your penciler, you have your inker, you have your colorist, you have every single part of the process is all, set to different, set on different parts, and then it all comes together at the end. But we're just twisting bolts. You're one part of the process.
Shoot, man.
So-
I know when we were doing books, it was three of us.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have an artist, and maybe that artist would take and do the guts of the book and
Mhm.
the cover, and then my wife would take and we do the lettering and the color. It's
Mm-hmm.
3 people, maximum 4, but usually it was just 3 people working
Yeah.
on one book. And man, you're right, man. It gets a little crazy.
I always just say, like, a lot of guys come over to me like, hey man, how can I get into the comic industry? How can I get into this? That's the question you'll always
Yep.
get if you work in the industry.
Yeah.
I say, the best way to do it is to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Go out there. It's like there is nothing stopping you from making your own comic books or any of this animation. You can do all that stuff on your own. You can learn. There's a lot of programs out there that are reasonably priced. And you can
Describe reasonable.
yeah, there's a program called was it not Procreate? What is it called? It's Clip Studio.
Clip Studio.
I think it's called Clip Studio. That's like a $60 program. There's another program called that one can do animation. Even Photoshop does animation, believe it or not. A lot of these things are out there. You can do these sorts of things on your own. So it's like, the biggest thing I always say is do it on your own. And when a lot of times what happens is the industry sees that you go out there, you're like, hey, this is the book that I did. They see that you're doing this sort of stuff. They're like, all right, they obviously know what they're doing. They're working with this. So, we'll take this a little further. And that's the best thing. Nowadays, comics don't exactly do submissions anymore. Back when I was younger, you could actually walk into Marvel Comics and get a sample script, and you can just draw it and then submit it to them.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they don't do that stuff. Or what you used to be able to do is, like, I used to, as an intern, one of the many jobs as an intern was essentially typing up what the art director saw in submitted artwork from people. So it's like he'd be like, hey, this is not working, but you can't do that anymore. You can't walk into Marvel or DC and do that stuff anymore.
Close, man.
So a lot of times what it is, they go to conventions and you wait on a long line and then you get your art reviewed. But also just biggest part of it is also just doing it on your own.
You gotta do it. I think like people will come up to me and I say, hey, I want to get done. I said, if you really want to do it, then you just got to go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what scares a lot of people off is, and I've seen this, guys will do one book
Mm-hmm.
and then they just disappear. It's a lot of work.
Oh,
man.
yeah,
it's a lot of work.
They kind of juice, like all their juices go into making this one magnum opus book, and then that's it. There's no more.
Yeah, it just fizzles out. And I tell people, man, you have to build a solid foundation to work from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to just don't be afraid to just go out and do it. A teacher and a professional artist said this to me. It's like, listen, as an artist and as a freelancer, you're gonna have a million chances to do the thing over again and better the next time.
Yeah.
So don't worry about if you're not, you didn't do the best job that you could have for this one. You always have another project, another thing. You can do it even better, and you grow as an artist and as a creator.
I mean, that's a true statement. I say that not along the same lines, but just different wording. It was like, you don't want to put your best work out the first book you do.
No.
You don't. You definitely want to get better and better as you go along, because you have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, there's also as an artist, you kind of create your formulas that you kind of repeat over and over again, and as you get better, you're able to kind of put it down a lot quicker.
Exactly.
So again, you can just put it out, put your book together and be like, you know what, this is the best I can do at this point in time, and then go on to the next thing.
On to the next thing, man. Yeah.
That one was from Mosaic. I can't remember what issue.
That's awesome, Spidey.
That's Kari Randolph again. Again, we're gonna see quite a bit of things that are with Kari. He's my longtime partner in comics. So
Huge Spider-Man fan.
yeah, it was it's funny, like working in this stuff for so long, like working on like so many franchises and things like that. I've kind of become a little bit numb to what I'm working on. You know, it's like like how you say, oh yeah, I worked on Turtles and Venture Brothers and Black Dynamite, and I worked on all these things, and I got onto Spider-Man, and like younger me would have been like, and I'm like, I'm sitting there painting this thing, I'm like, oh yeah, I am doing this, aren't I? All right, this is cool.
Oh man, yeah, I can understand that.
But the one thing about all of it, and this is one thing I still enjoy, and even when I was in animation, just seeing the final product, like, you know, you're grinding, and there's all that stress and stuff that kind of comes with all that stuff. But then finally, the next month you go into a comic book store, there's your thing on the shelf, or Saturday morning, and the show that you worked on is on TV.
That is awesome.
And that never goes away.
Ever.
It's like once all the rigmarole of working gets out of the way, and you're able to actually think, you're like, oh wow, yeah, I was part of that. That's cool.
That is one of the best feelings. It's like when you're working on something and it's just been convoluted in your head, and you get it done. You go through the whole print process and all that other stuff, the inking, the coloring, and you see that, dude, there's nothing better. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
It's like,
And even and I still love like physical comics. There's something magical about having that book there.
Yep.
You know, I don't feel like, I feel a little like when, obviously I've seen the stuff that it's all digital, and I think that's all great because you can literally hold like 1,000 comics in the palm of in one Palm Pilot or whatever. Not Palm Pilot.
I know exactly.
That's old school. That's too old school for you guys.
Or something like.
Yeah, or Kindle, or
your
or
phone.
iPhone, or any of that. I think that's amazing. But there's still, to this day, I still carry books with me whenever I travel.
I like the physical books myself. I like ebooks, again, but there's nothing like flipping through them pages, man. It's there's nothing better.
That's more. The previous piece was for.
I tell you what, the scary thing is with books, though. You have some of these companies doing like ebooks, and they don't even know how to do an actual physical book.
Yeah,
that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary, man. That's like a lost art form, man.
Yeah, it kind of gets like that in the industry too, where a lot of people are so nowadays are so used to having actions and Photoshop actions and all that stuff. They don't know. All they know is how to do the act. Click the action rather than go in and resize a page. I used to do that stuff when I was an intern. Yeah. But granted, I was interning at the point where there was. Like we were just on the cusp of doing things fully digital, and Marvel in the late '90s, like we were, it was like things are on tape drives. Like it was like yeah.
And so we're gonna do a part 2 to this. So anyone watching, you gotta watch this next week, but. For everyone right now, if we were live, you're watching this right now. Alrighty, so you're watching Eclecticka. See you next time. Gonna stop. Abrupt stop. Bomb.